Major move by the Houston Texans, reportedly. I'm Jason Bristol here in the KHOU11 newsroom, here to talk about what is just now transpiring from over at NRG. Laremy Tunsil, the bedrock of that Houston Texans offensive line, is being traded reportedly to the Washington Commanders. That's right, Laremy Tunsil, at one time the highest paid left tackle in the league, is no longer a member of the Houston Texans. At least he won't be when the new league year starts on Wednesday. Right now it is the legal tampering period in the NFL. Teams can talk to players who are on the open market as free agents, and also teams making deals. We've seen a number of them today, but this one is massive when you consider the player involved and where the Texans are heading and what they are looking at when it comes to their offensive line. My big takeaway initially is this. This speaks volumes of how the Texans view the performance of the offensive line in 2024 and the potential of this offensive line. You are giving away, or not giving away, but you are trading away a franchise left tackle. Now, the argument is Laremy Tunsil hasn't always played up to that capability. Let us know what you're thinking. I'm on the KHO11 Facebook page. Let us know what you think about this deal that is just coming to light. Here are the particulars in terms of who's coming back or what's coming back to Houston. Right now, Ian Rappaport is reporting that a second rounder and a fourth rounder in next year's draft, plus a third rounder this year to the Texans, and Houston sends back a fourth rounder and Laremy Tunsil. It doesn't appear as though the Texans will be taking on any of Laremy Tunsil's salary. He is paid a lot of money. As I'm trying to look at this right now, but let us know what you're thinking about this deal as I'm on the KHO11 Facebook page. Laremy Tunsil, average salary of $25 million a year. Signed a 3-year extension with $60 million guaranteed out of his 3-year, $75 million contract. Again, the Texans, what they are doing right now speaks volumes about how they view this offensive line and how it performed last season. Laremy Tunsil is the leader of that offensive line. He is now gone. And when you look at Laremy Tunsil's numbers, I'm just pulling up Pro Football Focus. One thing the Texans fans will definitely bring up right away, penalties. Last year he had 19 penalties. Most of the false start variety. That was 141st out of 141 tackles that PFF graded last year. He was dead last in penalties. Pass blocking, he's elite. Even last year, ranked 4th per PFF. Run blocking, 25th. Overall grade, 23rd by Pro Football Focus. He is paid like one of the top offensive linemen in the game. And based on numbers, and I think the eyeball test, many of you out there would say he did not play like it. He was better towards the end of the year, in the middle of the year, whatever. He was able to rectify a number of the issues he had early on in the season. But again, this is something that I keep going back to this. This tells you everything you need to know about what the Texans are thinking about right now as the offseason begins in full swing. Protecting CJ Stroud did not happen last year. You cannot have your franchise quarterback being sacked as many times as CJ Stroud was last season. You cannot have your franchise quarterback under duress as much as CJ Stroud was last season. And you cannot have your franchise quarterback pressured as much as CJ Stroud was last season. Around the NFL, people are always looking at, oh, well, CJ Stroud, he wasn't able to duplicate the numbers from that phenomenal rookie season. That was going to be a tall task no matter what happened, but he was constantly under pressure. And what do teams do to win ball games? It's about making the other team uncomfortable. And CJ was clearly uncomfortable in that pocket. That's why you saw the interceptions go up. That's why you saw the number of, I don't want to say incompletions, but throws that he made the year before, not making them for the most part in 2024. So again, Laremy Tunsil is on the way out. So when you look at the grand scheme of things here, Shaq Mason, one of your starters, he is reportedly being let go. And Laremy Tunsil is being let go, traded away to the Washington Commanders. That means Titus Howard is your main guy financially on the offensive line. You have Juice Scruggs, you have Patterson, you have Blake Fisher. What the Texans have done right now is a signal for what they are going to do moving forward. Expect a lot of moves and maybe even a big move on the offensive line to anchor that offensive line. And this has been a priority. DeMeco Ryans at the NFL Combine a couple of weeks ago mentioned, yes, protecting CJ is a priority. And I'm paraphrasing there. I don't have the direct quote in front of me, but I can get it. But again, if you're on the KHO 11 News Facebook page, let us know how you feel about this move, because this is massive. This is massive. Now, some people will say, how about drafting an offensive lineman? Because you need offensive linemen based on what we saw in 2024. History will show that where the Texans are picking, 25th, and where your plug-and-play offensive linemen live in the NFL draft, usually you get those stud offensive linemen, the guy that starts right away in the league, usually they're gone in the first 10 picks. So I don't know if you are going to get a franchise offensive lineman in the first 10 picks. Another discussion for later on is what the Texans will do in the draft. I think if they do stay at 25, they have enough needs that it's best player available, but we can talk about that another time. But DeMeco Ryans, let me see here. DeMeco Ryans, but I can't underestimate or undersell, I guess what I should say, what this really means for the Texans, because they're telling you everything you need to know about what they're going to do this offseason based on this one move. Shaq Mason moving, that was a different story. Moving on from Shaq Mason. But when you have Laremy Tunsil and what he means in terms of your space in the offensive line universe and the number of Pro Bowls he's been to and his reputation, and moving on from a guy like that, that's just massive. It's massive news. Here it is, getting better protection. This is from February 25th. This is DeMeco Ryans at the Combine. Getting better protection for CJ Stroud is a, quote, main point of emphasis for us. That was what DeMeco Ryans said at the NFL Combine, meeting with reporters in Indianapolis. That is what he said on February 25th. And now, on March 10th, you're seeing part of that process. Of course, Laremy Tunsil came to Houston with great fanfare. he was brought here to protect another franchise quarterback. We all know what happened to him. But Laremy Tunsil is 30 years old, former first-round pick. And he was traded back in 2019 to Houston, along with Kenny Stills and a fourth-round pick for 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and a couple of other players. And it paid off right away. In 2019, he's named to the Pro Bowl right away. And that was his first trip to the Pro Bowl. Raymond says it wasn't massive, it was obvious. That guy needed to go middle of the season. Yeah, but here's the thing, it takes 2 to tango, right? You need a trading partner, and you couldn't cut him during midseason. You're not going to walk away from that. So he clearly has value. But again, Amanda with a hand clap. Texans fans, while they appreciate the good times with Laremy Tunsil, I don't think they will miss him in terms of production from what we saw last year. Laremy Tunsil was a guy who had some penalty problems, and he was considered the leader of that offensive line. Back in 2023, so around this time 2 years ago, the Texans then gave him that 3-year, $75 million extension, earned Pro Bowl honors for the 4th time in his career, and he started all 17 games for the Texans, including both their postseason games. Martin, I should say, says, I think we got a pretty good haul from this trade. I would agree, especially I'm not seeing anything that the Texans are taking on any of his salary. So, yeah. It doesn't bother me. Now, John brings up a good point. Titus Howard's your new left tackle. I don't know. I mean, he has moved around. As we all know, one thing the Texans are very big on is versatility with their linemen, guys who can play different spots along the line. I mean, we've seen Juice Scruggs at guard, we've seen Juice Scruggs at center. We've seen Patterson at guard, we've seen Patterson at center. Blake Fisher has filled in a little bit in the tackle spot and also played a little left tackle when Laremy missed a few snaps here and there. Is he ready to be a left tackle, a starting left tackle? I don't know. Do you move Titus Howard to left tackle? I don't know. That's going to be a huge, huge thing to look for in the coming days and weeks. And you could say, well, you know, what are the best tackles available on the open market? This just shows that the Texans aren't necessarily, that doesn't necessarily mean the Texans aren't looking at somebody else who is under contract that they can swing a trade for. Maybe a guy on a team that's underperforming. I don't have a list in front of me. But, John, thank you for bringing that up. That is certainly a point to think of. Let me look and see how many games Titus Howard. John McClain posting on X, as it stands now, Texans have Blake Fisher, former second round at left tackle, Titus Howard, a former first rounder at right tackle. Howard is best suited at left guard based on last season. Yeah, I would agree with that. With the 25th pick, Casero can draft a tackle or a left guard or a defensive tackle. They need all 3 spots. Again, you know, if John was standing right here, I would argue they should probably just go best player available other than, you know, quarterback. But Moves like this are fascinating because, yes, we focus so much on what the players are doing and where they're going, but this time of year, it's about the teams, and this was not a smoke signal or anything in hieroglyphics. This is something that we can all read loud and clear. The Texans have said it, and now they are doing it. They are making sure that their franchise quarterback, CJ Stroud, has time to throw, has time to process, has time to do whatever, because he did not have that last season. And based on the grades, and listen, Pro Football Focus isn't perfect, this will likely, depending on who else they bring in, help their run game, because the run game was missing at times, even when Joe Mixon was in there, because so much of what the Texans do offensively, and really in this league, I mean, it is a passing league, but you still have to be able to run the football. He played, speaking of Laremy Tunsil last year, 1,026 snaps. He allowed 2 sacks. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But again, this is a massive move by the Texans, and yes, people can joke and say, yes, it was needed during the middle of last season. We all knew, but how the fans feel about players and how the fans feel about production and what they're seeing with their eyes doesn't always match what the Texans are thinking or viewing things, because throughout the season, and this is part of the game that NFL teams and coaches play with the media, often it's not just one guy. It's not one guy. It can be, maybe this guy missed an assignment and the other guy had to help out, and that's why so-and-so was unblocked. They will certainly mention it's a unit, and if one thing breaks down, other things break down. Laremy Tunsil is still one of the better offensive linemen, left tackles in the game, and if you're from Washington and the Commanders' perspective, you have your franchise quarterback. You have this year's CJ Stroud, and now you are getting a guy to protect him. In a difficult division, when you consider that your Super Bowl champions are in the same division, you're going to play them twice. I know the Giants are in there. And then you have the Cowboys, who are up and down, but they like pass rushers. So you're going to have, if you're Washington, you've got a guy now to protect your version of CJ Stroud. Appreciate everyone's comments. And again, this is a very, very big day for the Houston Texans, as Laremy Tunsil is reportedly no longer a member of the Texans. One more time, looking at the trade. It appears and now I don't have it anymore, but a bunch of draft picks, no players other than Tunsil. But it's very interesting that the Texans are choosing to do this with their franchise quarterback in place. And they're going to have to get better in a hurry, because you have CJ on his rookie deal, and he is this magical, magical player, and you can't afford to have him hurt. So the Texans, it will be fascinating to see what the Texans do in the coming days and weeks to rebuild this offensive line behind CJ Stroud, or in front of CJ Stroud. That's going to do it here from the KHO 11 Newsroom. I'm Jason Bristol. Once again, the Texans reportedly trading Laremy Tunsil, their franchise left tackle, to the Washington Commanders. Have a great day, everybody, and thanks for watching.